Hello and welcome to Fish and Forage. I am Zach and we are coming at you with a quick how to tie nightmare arrow jig style steelhead jigs. What I'm talking about are these guys. These are actually my favorite steelhead patterns, like as far as jigs go. They're super simple. They just have a little bit of chenille, a little bit of yarn, and a hackle feather all rolled up, and they make these little nightmare jigs is usually what they're called. So we're going to go over how to make these. So the first thing is the list of ingredients. We have our jig head rather. This is an 1/8 ounce. You can also use 1/4 ounce. Size 210 red thread. Red micro chenille for the body. Black micro chenille for the little tail thing. Glowbug's yarn in like an orange or red. Finally, a hackle. I'm using a dark hackle. You can use whatever color you want, but that just makes the little frillies on the back here. Check the description for a list of all these ingredients and links where to get them. So let's go ahead and get these prepared. The tail chenille should be folded in half like this, and then the length of the folded pieces should be about 1 hackle feather, maybe a little less than 1 hackle feather. Let's go ahead and cut that. Next up is the body chenille. So this one should be about the same length, but it's going to be tied on just single. It won't be folded over. We're going to get a hackle feather here. I usually go for these, kind of the ones on the top and the back that kind of more defined. Alright, pull that off. Now to prepare this, we're going to take off all these floofy feathers and then use our scissors here to cut kind of close. So now the bottom of the feather just has that little bit out, and then we're going to turn it around and grab just the tip here and then pull down on all these feathers so it spreads them out real nice. Finally, we're going to have the yarn. It'll kind of explode if I cut it early, so we're going to cut that later, but I have it ready to go. Put our jig head in. Make sure it is stable on there. Now we're going to start by just tying on a base with our red thread. And we don't need to go back very far because most of every ingredient is tied on very close to the jig head. So we only really need like 1/4 of the length down the shaft. I'm going to start tying things in right about there. For our chenille, we want to line up all 3 ends of the chenille here and then pull off a little bit of the extra so the thread can get tied on there. See those 2 exposed threads? We're going to tie with those. And then finally the third one, pull off the same amount of this one, just the end here, just like that. So now we have all 3 ends exposed with thread. I'm going to line them up a little bit, take all 3 as a bundle, and then we're going to lay them down right at the top there, really close to the jig head. Give them a couple loose wraps, and then you can use your other hand to kind of pull up because you want all these to be on the back of the jig. Perfect. Get these all laid down. Now it's okay if we have a little base here. It'll make the body of our jig a little easier to wrap. So bring that thread back down to where you tied in those chenilles. Now we're going to use our little ingredient grabber here. You want to bring the black one to the front and then the red one to the back, because that's how we're going to handle it later. So we got all this tied down. Now we need to put our yarn on. So we're going to flip it over. It's nice if you have one of those rotating bases. And we have our yarn here. And I'm going to take a length of it. So there's the end. And I'm just going to fold it over. And then I'm going to grab that folded part and cut through the whole thing here to make it nice and even. Cut that off too. Now we have this nice even cut to tie on. I'm going to take my other hand. So now this is where the fold is. I'm going to put it under here, come through with our other hand, grab it so it's stuck underneath that hook, bend, and then we're just going to tie it in here. Make sure you don't go too far back. And it's okay if this is a little poofy because this will just help build the body. I'm just going to tie that in kind of willy-nilly because it's gonna get covered with chenille anyway. Tying that down. Just a couple more wraps down there. And that's perfect. So the yarn, it's gonna kind of sit up there a little easier. I like to bend it that way so there's not a bunch of fluff out, and it just makes it slightly easier to tie. So flip that bad boy back over. We kind of did go back down, but it'll be fine. We'll just have a thicker body there. So now we want to put our hackle feather on. We have this that we're gonna pop out the tail, and then we're gonna take our hackle feather here, grab just that that tip again, and pull it so you get a nice little tuft there to tie in. You can see that. And just lay it across the back, right where the thread currently is, right where you tied in all of the chenille. Wrap that over. Oops, I can probably wrap this a couple more times and then cut that. Cut that extra feather off. Perfect. Alrighty, so now we have that feather tied in right at the base of the black chenille. We're just going to bring our thread back up there. Now you're going to want to take the chenille and the hackle feather, and you'll see they both should line up pretty close at the end here. And we're going to take our hackle pliers and grab all three of these things, so like the wrapped up thread and the end of the hackle feather. Just like that, and then spin it. So I'm just spinning it, spinning it, spinning it. You'll see it starts getting bunched up, and those hackle feathers start frilling out like they do. Now eventually it'll get completely wrapped up, and it'll start trying to fold in on itself, and that's kind of what we want. So wrap, wrap, wrap. It's kind of getting to that point. Make sure the yarn stays out of it. Just pull it out of there if you see it. So this is pretty wrapped. So one thing I like to do is I grab onto it in the middle, because if you let go it's just going to want to curl up on itself immediately, and pull back. So I'm pulling this way, and then I just lay the hackle pliers where I want to tie it in and let it curl up then. So now I have that perfect little tie in there, and I'm going to start, oops, bump the camera, start wrapping this around to tie it down real nice. Pretty short on space here between the camera and my hand. Make sure that that nice tail is laying flat. Tie it in pretty good. Got about 5 or 6 wraps here. So now we're going to cut out, tug down a little bit. Now we're going to cut this excess off that's in the hackle pliers. Pull this tail back a little bit, and then just make sure it's all nice and tied down there. Oops. Alright, so now the last step is going to be to make the body, so we're going to wrap this back down to the head here, give it a little base, and pop out our red chenille. Make sure that yarn isn't caught on it, and just start wrapping it around. We got that nice base here, so we don't have to wrap it too much, a little bit higher. Wrap it a couple times at the end there to match, make sure the body looks all even. Looks good. Get that last one here. Now wrap this around a couple times to get it nice and snug. We'll cut this extra off and pretty much be done. 3 or 4 times. 4. Cut off this excess. Wrap it around a couple times good. And put on our whip finish. Where's my whip finish? There it is, my whip finish tool. Let's do 8. Sounds like a good number. Pretty bad whip finishing. Give it a good snug down. pull that so it's all nice and tight. And cut the excess off. Now the last step here, once we have the little thread cut off, we want to flip this back over and then pull this yarn out to the side, this big ball of yarn, bunch it all up nice. Take your scissors here and just cut it pretty close, just like that. Cut off that excess. Now it looks real nice and trim, and that's how you do it. That's it. Completed nightmare jig. Boom. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. I hope you learned a little bit. I hope that you can take this information, make some awesome lures for yourself, and go out and catch some nice chrome steelhead. And if you do go out with this lure, definitely tag me on Instagram. You know, show me a fish you caught with it. It'd be awesome to see. But anyway guys, until next time, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that sub button if you haven't yet. Take care, and I will see you next time.